Hi, I'm Christina, and welcome to this episode of Women's Health, Wealth, and Happiness Interviews to Inspire. Today's guest is a dynamic and multifaceted woman who wears many hats and wears them all with power and purpose. She's the social man. I'm going to go back. I stumbled in the beginning and I didn't like it.
All good.
Today's guest is a dynamic and multifaceted woman who wears many hats and wears them all with power and purpose. She's the social media lead at Women in Leadership, a campaign manager at Femme Influence, and an active member of the Toastmasters, where she continually hones her voice and vision. With an honors degree in finance, a passion for learning, and a philosophy rooted in invest in yourself, she believes that true strength begins within. Her commitment to fitness fuels her resilience, her inner richness gives her depth, and her ultimate goal is peace. Please welcome self-published author, speaker, YouTuber, finance professional, and a strong voice for women's leadership and self-investment, the determined and inspiring Urmi.
Yes, my name is Urmi Hossain. I'm based in Montreal, Canada. I consider myself a third culture kid, someone who basically is born in a country different from her parents' country. So I always say I'm Italian by birth, Bengali by blood, and Canadian by law. I was born and raised in Italy, lived my whole life there, and then I moved to Canada where I work in the financial sector. I also am someone who has, besides working 9 to 5, I have a lot of passions. And I always say, I have also my 5 to 9 where I, pursue a lot of interest. And a lot of the things that you have just mentioned are some of the things that I do. So I am a speaker, blogger, YouTuber, female mentor, and a big advocate of women's empowerment.
Urmi, your health word is fitness. Tell us what fitness means to you in regards to health.
Yes, I would say that for me, when I think about the word health, I always think about fitness because I think that in order to be healthy, we really need to take care of our body. And I'm someone who likes to move her body, be in continuous motion, whether it's walking, doing yoga, working out, because I feel like once you're, doing any kind of, fitness activity, you're also able to nurture your soul and your inner and get the inner peace. And so for me, when it comes to fitness, I do a bunch of different things. Like as we were talking at the beginning, I do boxing classes, I run outside, I do boot camp, I do a lot of walking as well. I like to hike. And I like to be a lot in the nature. So for me, I always say that in order to be healthy in our life, it's not just important, to eat well, but also to move continuously, and that is done through fitness.
Now, I'm someone who absolutely loves fitness. I've been a dancer my entire life. I love my yoga and I love walking. What is your inspiration for your fitness? Does this come from your family or is this something that comes innately from you?
No, it just comes from me. Actually, I think actually the whole story about fitness, it started really late in my life because when I was in high school, we used to have the gym class. And I remember I used to hate the class, actually. Like I used to hate it. Every time we had that gym class, it was a 2 hours class, and I remember not wanting to go. But as I became older, and now that I'm like when I was 25, I realized the importance of like working out and staying active. And so it's something that I really like learned and explored later on in my life. So it's not something that no one ever taught me. It was something that I learned, it's for your own mental health and mental strength. And this is why I started to do fitness. So it started when I was 25, and now it's part of my lifestyle. Like I want people to see me as someone who works out on a regular basis. I want this to be part of my identity. And so now I tend to like work out at least four times a week, whether it's, working like out, doing a class or running. But for me, it's really, really important to move, especially because I feel like coming from a South Asian culture, usually they don't teach you about like, doing things that are related to your fitness because they always associate, you working out as you wanting to lose weight. But in reality, I don't do it for that. I do it for my own mental health and for my own mental strength and sanity. So this is where it all started.
which makes perfect sense. Not only is it for your physical health, but the downtime for the mental health because you have so many projects going on all at the same time. How do you make time with everything that you have going on for your health?
It's a lot of time management. You really have to be like at the top of your game. You really have to know, you really have to stick to your plan. I am someone who really sticks to whatever I write on my Google Calendar. And so, if I have to do something, I have to put on my Google Calendar and I religiously follow what's in there. So this is how I'm able to do my stuff. And for me, like even the days I do my workouts, I have to put it there. Like these are not negotiable. And so like this is how I organize myself. A lot of organizational skills, good organizational skills, and good time management skills.
And with that commitment, it shows determination because you're able to do that. And I know that has to come across in your other work in social media. Tell us a little bit more about what you do in your social media, your blogging, your YouTube channel.
Yeah, so on the YouTube channel, basically, I talk about different things, but they're all mainly related to language learning, public speaking, Toastmasters. I also talk about this CFA program, which is basically a certification that you can complete if you're working in the financial industry. So I give a lot of tips about that. And I also do like a lot of interviews. So I invite people to talk about like their business, their services, and whatever they provide. Usually they're like coaches. And so I'm always asking for like educational stuff that can help the audience. In terms of the social media stuff, especially the one related to women in leadership, basically I manage the Women in Leadership account. And Women in Leadership, it's an organization based in Canada where basically the whole purpose and goal is to empower the women in our community. And we want to help them to climb the corporate ladder. So even there, I do like a lot of Instagram lives. I invite different coaches, and all of these people are coaches in relation to career. So we have coaches who talk about leadership. We have those that talk about again public speaking, how to use LinkedIn. We have those that talk about networking. So these are the things that I talk about in the Women in Leadership Instagram account, where I basically manage the Instagram account.
Incredible. Again, I look at all the things that you do. It's just a whole calendar full of things.
Yes. Yes.
No, you're unique in that, and there's a few of us out there who are able to juggle all these amazing things. What advice would you give to someone who is trying to be disciplined in their job, whether they're an entrepreneur, in business, and trying to make sure that they stay fit in their own schedules?
I would say, really, to make it really simple, is to start with one thing only. Especially because at the beginning, if you're working full time and then you have like other, personal commitments, it can be a bit overwhelming. Once it becomes overwhelming, you tend to give up on whatever you started. And I feel like once you give up, you're literally betraying yourself. That's how I see it. And so for me, I always say that if you want to start on something, you want to make sure that you're consistent with it. And instead of like overdoing and being an overachiever, my suggestion would be to start with one thing only and then to stick to it and see how you feel after a couple of months. As soon as you learn and you get comfortable, then you can move to the next thing or you can grow whatever you're doing right now. I would say it's always a gradual process. And it's not something that can happen overnight. It's not something you cannot do something big in one day. You really have to start small. And I would say to start with one thing only. I think definitely to start small and also to do some type of reflection also about the things you want to give back to the community. I think that once you start on doing some stuff, it's always because you want to serve, a community and to do some sort of like inner work about our strengths, our talents, our, skills. What is it that we're good at that can add value to the people? Because at the end of the day, it's always about serving the community. It's never about yourself. It's about the other people, how we can help the other people. So I always think think when you want when you want to start something, think about it from that perspective. How can you help the person, that I want to help, So you always have to put yourself from the perspective of a client, I guess. That's how if you want to put it that way. So this is would be my other advice.
Fantastic. And from a mental health perspective, it's not only fitness, but mental health and trying to stay organized. What advice do you have for that?
Yeah, I think mental health and staying organized, they pretty much go hand in hand, especially because if things get messy, you might feel overwhelmed. It might lead you to a burnout. So I always say to have a to-do list. I'm someone who likes to have a to-do like an actual list where I write down the things I want to do. Usually, I think it also depends on people. Like some people prefer to use their phone to keep track of their stuff, and some other people like me, they like to have a notebook. I'm usually someone who likes to have a notebook, and I usually like to plan out my things for the week and for the month actually. So I'm usually like you'll see my calendar like pretty booked 3 weeks in advance. And once I do something, I just check it off. So, and that's how I'm able to see the progression. I'm able to see if I'm moving forward with my stuff. So I think for someone who wants to stay organized without feeling like it's too much, it's to stick to a to-do list. Yeah.
Is there anyone who is a role model to you that has really influenced the way that you do things?
Yes and no. Meaning that we really have to go back in time. Like really, literally have to go back to when I was in university. So we're talking about 2015, so 10 years ago. And there was a girl who I used to work with. Actually, she used to be like my boss or the assistant of my boss. And I used to look up to her because I felt like she was able to get things done. She was a go-getter, and that's how I got my inspiration to do things and to be able to achieve things. The thing is, she doesn't know that. She actually doesn't know that. I never told her because then she left the company and she left the country. But I remember thinking, oh my gosh, she's able to do so many things. And I was like, I also want to be able to do the same thing. So she was always my source of inspiration because she was able to, being a student and also work part-time and being able to get things done. I was able to see the progression of her work when she was able to get things done. And that's how I, frame, and that's how I want to say, this is how I implemented the things for myself as well.
So, how did you get into the community building piece?
That's a good question. I think for me, it started with one idea, which was how do I want people to know me for, or how do I want people to perceive me when they see my name or they see me? And one word that came up was women's empowerment. So, how it started is that I had this idea in mind, and then I started to search for different organizations. They were serving women in the community, whether it was in Montreal, in the States, or elsewhere in the world. And it all started with very short-term projects where I would like mentor some of the women in the community, or maybe I would write some articles for the women in the community, or maybe it was just a quick coffee chat. And And later on, I would say that the opportunity of being part of women in leadership came from it. And I think the whole idea of community building literally started from the fact that there was an idea, but then I think it made it clear who I wanted to serve. And so for me, really, it was more about, serving women who are working full time, who are in the corporate job, especially because I'm also someone who works in the office. And I felt like it was a better fit, especially because we share all the same background. And my goal was also to be part of a sisterhood. I really believe in this whole concept of women's empowerment, women supporting other women and women encouraging other women. And I also felt like even with the little, you know, connection that I had, I was always feeling very energized. I feel like I was able to exchange ideas. I feel like we were able to help each other. You go through the same struggles, you go through the same challenges, and one idea leads to another, and then that's how you build a connection that stays forever. And so for me, it really just started with that one idea, and some of the connections that I have made, they're still like present. I still talk to a lot of my mentees, mentors, And so I really believe in this, in the power of connections.